Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Calling All Devs, our weekly Q&A series where I take questions from you, the Star Citizen backer, and pose them directly to our developers, usually over Microsoft Teams. We upgraded. We upgraded in case things have sounded or looked differently. Probably not. All right, starting us off this week, we are going to friend of the show, Mr. Dan Truffin out of our Frankfurt studio. Dan, how you doing, man?
Hey, Jared. All good.
All good?
You?
It's another day in paradise, man. I have a stock answer. I'm not capable of actually discussing my real feelings about the day. I just have a stock answer that's just... So you never know. I'm a mystery. Wrapped in an enigma. Wrapped in a recently shaved. Still wearing makeup from yesterday's shoot. I think so. Yeah.
Oh, looks good.
Yep. Yeah, yesterday's shoot involved makeup. You'll see why in a week or two. All right, let's get to the question, Stan. From the backers, voted on by the backers. This one has to do with removing pesky players from our ships. It says, how do you envision removing players from our ships? Imagine that I have a Banu merchantman. Wouldn't that be nice? Imagine we have a Banu merchantman. Imagine that I have a Banu merchantman. I have my shop open and I want to leave planet or go to the next place. How do I remove customers from my ships that maybe don't want to leave on their own? Do I have to use force? If I have to use force, will the criminality system react? What can you tell us?
So definitely we don't want you to use force as in pull out your gun and shoot them in the head. That is not the way to go. Mm-hmm. So especially since most of the time you don't really want to kill those people, they just happen to be on your ship and you just want to do something different. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to piss them off. So you can use the criminality system, not necessarily the criminality system, the law system, mm-hmm. and security on your side. More or less what happens on your ship, you are the law on your ship. So what you can do is basically set them to not have permission to be on your ship.
Okay.
In which case they will get a warning that they're in violation, they're in an area that they should not be, and they get a timer to get out.
Okay.
The problem is that the timer might not be enough for them to, especially with a bigger ship, if they're at one end and the exit is the other end.
And they don't know the interior of the merchantman as well?
Yeah, or they might be, I don't know, AFK, because they went in to buy something, or they're just there for what it looks. Imagine there's a Starliner.
Right.
And they just were in transit. They're really AFK. They don't care about how they get there. They care that they get there. And once they got there, they're still in the kitchen making food.
Or they're RPing like an old person. They're RPing an old person. I'm moving fast.
Or that, yes. No, but in those cases, you do not want to kill them. And in those cases, I think we're going to have to look into some more civilized ways of getting people out. So let's say your ship is docked at a station or in a hangar. Mm-hmm. We can have a way of basically forcing those people out through you give something like an evacuation order. And if the people are not out, let's say in 1 minute, they get teleported out into the hangar or into the station that you're connected to. So that is one way of doing it.
I have to imagine you have to consider things like, because you wouldn't want people to use this system to repel borders and stuff.
Yes. So, yeah, one thing that can happen is that you get a pop-up on the screen that says the captain of this vessel has asked that you remove yourself from the vessel. Mm-hmm. This will get automatically executed in 60 seconds, but you can cancel that. You can go like ignore. And if you click ignore, you stay on that vessel. But as soon as after 60 seconds, if the guy turns the security on, you're on your own. You have to evade his whatever internal turrets. He has the right to shoot you at this point. You're in violation. You get flagged as a criminal because you will be in a place you're not supposed to be. You're trespassing. You're in the place you're not supposed to be according to the local law on that ship. The guy can just pull out the gun, shoot you with no consequences. Mm-hmm. But it's your choice. You chose to ignore that thing and not get teleported out.
You ever seen Beverly Hills Cop 2?
Remember? I might have, but
I'm picturing people, using the 2 minutes. They have a timer. Like we have to get whatever we're gonna get done before the timer hits and the criminality turns in. I envision that becoming a gameplay tactic now.
So
Be interesting.
we also have to look on the other side where you don't want people to abuse the system. Let's say I have a Starliner, I move 50 people across the universe, and somewhere in the middle of the trip, I just go like, yeah, let's just turn security on and see what happens. So that will not be an option. So you will probably have to be docked somewhere and connected to a station when you do that process. And we need to make sure people that just don't get teleported into space or something like this.
Yeah. Well,
It's not good.
I think it's probably safe to say that whenever the Tier 0 implementation of this system comes in, it will be the Tier 0 implementation of this system,
Yes.
and that we'll be watching.
As always, we'll start with the simplest version, I think, which will be probably teleport with a timer, and then we'll see how that evolves and see how else we can build it in a nicer way. Obviously, teleport is not a nice thing because it breaks the immersion in the game. But for people who are AFK and they're not coming back in the next 2 minutes, there needs to be a way where the captain of that ship gets rid of them, and they are also not getting killed in the process, ideally, if possible. We'll see. We'll see which one is Tier 0, because maybe Tier 0, especially now with smaller ships, was probably going to be where you can change the security settings. They're going to have to be a warning and you change security settings. But when you're talking about like a Starliner or a Banu Merchantman, we're talking about different capacity of ship, and there might be multiple groups of people on board that are not necessarily part of your party.
Right.
So right now, I think we'll solve the party problem first. What happens when someone in your party doesn't want to get off your ship and stuff like this, and then we'll see about the bigger picture where you're just transporting some people, or some people just happen to be on your ship doing business.
Iterative development.
Exactly, as per always.
All right, Dan, you did it. I think you happy with the answer? You comfortable?
All right. I think it's good.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
All right, and it's not the first time we've addressed this. It probably won't be the last time before whenever the Tier 0 gets in. So we'll check back in with you later, I imagine.
I'm sure it'll only be addressed once it's in the game and working. So.
Oh yeah, nobody ever asks about anything before it's in the game. That never happens. All right, Dan, I'll let you go, man. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you so much, Dan. Always a pleasure. Now we are moving on to another Calling All Devs newbie. First time on the show, Graham Phillipson, our lead audio programmer out of our UK studio. Graham, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I can't help but notice you're not in your office.
No, I do work from home 1 day a week.
I called you at home.
You did, yeah.
It's not
but I am still working, so it's fine.
You sure?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, okay. I'm going to take your word. I got some questions for you. Now, these questions for Calling All Devs are submitted by the backers, voted on by the backers. This one that got voted up here is one that we've talked about before. We talked about it last year on an RTV with Lee Banyard. But I think when folks ask questions, it's either because they weren't around. Then we do get a lot of new backers each and every day. And also sometimes I think they're just hoping for an update, if anything. They're like, oh, just ask again.
Absolutely.
We'll ask again 6 months later and see. So we're gonna see if there is an update. This says, have you considered going beyond normal in-game voice commands, like the ones that Voice Attack provides, to include game-level integration? And if so, what are you considering?
Well, I mean, the first answer is yes. We would absolutely love to do that. It's on the roadmap, so we do plan to have an internal voice command solution. We plan to fully integrate it as we do with everything in Star Citizen, so it will be very much an embedded part of the game experience. One big thing with Voice Attack is that you have to bind everything that you do to a sort of key action or a mouse action. We wouldn't need to do that because we'd be a system running completely within the game. So yeah, we definitely plan to do that. And as with anything we develop, we would like to go beyond what's already available because, if you're not improving things, then why are you doing it?
Absolutely. I think that could be one of Star Citizen's many mottos right there. Now, you said it's on the roadmap. You mean your internal audio team roadmap, not on the public roadmap that our backers can see?
Absolutely right. That's a good clarification there, Jared. So we internally in the audio code team, we have a huge backlog of stuff that we want to get up to, and it's getting closer. Yeah, it's not on the immediate immediate plan, but it's there.
Right. And when it does come time to begin work on that, then people will see it added to the public roadmap, and it'll get slotted in for
absolutely,
probably towards the
once
end, 3.5, 3.6, whatever towards the end, and you'll be able.
Once we actually plan it in and attach it to a release, then that's when we'll start to see it on the public roadmap.
Cool. Have you given any thought to how the voice attack works with VoIP? I mean, it seems to me like there might be some challenges between. Are you talking to me? Because we get that here. I work in an area here where we got multiple people, and sometimes when I say something, somebody behind me that goes, "Are you talking to me?" And I imagine that's going to have to be a consideration when you combine something like voice, like in-game voice commands with an in-game voice communication system.
Yeah, absolutely. The two completely overlap, and we'll have to collaborate with design to figure out the best solutions to that. I mean, just off the top of my head, we could have some sort of push to talk to your computer, or we could have something like "Hey Siri" or whatever it is, "Hey, okay Google" equivalent. We could have a sort of trigger word like that sort of wakes up the voice system.
Uh-huh.
But these are all just options. I mean, we could have both. We don't know,
Yeah.
but we would sit down with design and figure out those issues. And then, obviously, the question also would be, if you're speaking to your computer, then do we cut that from the VoIP communication and cut the facial animation that goes with it? And again, we'll figure that out with design.
Or do you want to see a bunch of people bring up their mobiGlas and talking to their mobiGlas in the game, stuff like that? It interesting considerations.
It may be nice to see it and hear it, but maybe we can just kind of damp it down a little bit, push it into the background, because we know it's not directed at other people in the game, but it still needs to be there. It still needs to be an ambient thing.
Ultimately, it's not they're not questions that need answers right now because it's not in active development right now. So we got some time to brain on it.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
What else are you working on since I got you and bothered you at home?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a little overlap with what I'm still working on right now, which is polishing the VoIP system. So we're almost out right now. I don't know when this show goes out, but in 3.3 we have our first release of VoIP.
Yeah, hopefully that will be out live on our public servers before this airs. We're hoping.
Cool. In that case, I'll say VoIP is out there now. No, we don't. We're not sure about that, but it very much should be. I've just been fixing a few issues with it today. Obviously, this is step one towards a voice attack style solution too, because the first thing you need to do is get the voice into the game, and we've done that for VoIP, so we've got one of the building blocks in there already. So a lot of work's been done on VoIP and FoIP to ensure that everyone can communicate properly, everyone's face is synced to their voice, and then there's a whole massive infrastructure that honestly has never been done in a game before that is supporting the system, and we're learning a lot as we go. So if you're using VoIP and experiencing any issues, just a little patience, because nobody's done this thing before with the facial data as well.
Right. Yeah, no, that's definitely, because it's not just opening up a Discord channel and sending the conversation over. It's got to be synced with all this other face data at the same.
Yeah.
Even though even though you're turned away, or maybe you're across far distances and whatever, it still has to process. It still has to do everything it normally does. It's not a use this system in this situation, use this other system in another situation. You got to build something that's dynamic enough to be used in all situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And Discord is it's limited to who joins the chats in that. We're not limited to that. We're offering some in-world audibility of other people who aren't necessarily in a group with you. So we're pushing the data requirements in all different directions. We've got additional requirements for the facial data. We're probably driving more communicators than you would normally see in Discord too.
I will tell you, it was simple things that sometimes get overlooked. I know a lot of people in our community don't overlook this. I've seen the commentary about it, but we had an internal playtest a couple days ago, and I was in a constellation, and we were playing, and and somebody was in the back like, "Hey, what are you doing back there?" And I'm hearing them. I'm over, I'm looking at the Merlin. They're talking about whether they can launch the Merlin, blah, 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 and it's all it's filtered and whatnot. And then I'm in the pilot seat, I'm flying, and I'm like, "Now what are you doing?" And suddenly, clear as day, "I'm right here beside you." It's like, and it was. They were right there beside me, and I instantly knew, without having to look, that they were there. That I knew where they were in the ship, based on the tenor and timbre of the voice I was hearing. And that's
that's
super
awesome, isn't it?
cool. I love that exclamation, the additional knowledge that comes with stuff that maybe isn't obviously present right away. It's really cool. I think it'll be a great tool for multi-crew and everything as that stuff develops. So I think
Absolutely.
All right, man. I'm gonna let you go. I filled up
Cool.
enough time. We had somebody cancel, so I used you to fill up some time. So I appreciate you.
No worries.
Right.
If nothing else, I've been filler. So thanks for that.
You're great. You're great. Thank you so much, Graham. I'll let you get back to work.
Okay, thanks, man.
All right, take
Cool.
care.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you so much, Graham Phillips. And now moving on to friend of the show, Luke Presley. We got a question about scramble races. Luke, how you doing, man?
Hey, not bad, Jared. You?
Another day in paradise. All right. Never mind. All right, so I really gotta.
So early, right? How early is it there?
It is 6:40 in the morning right now. This is my last call, though. I get to actually
Go back to bed?
No, I just start the actual business today. I've got RTV in a couple hours. We're doing them back to back, calling all devs in the morning, and I go in there and start setting up for RTV. All right, got a question for you. This one's, I said it's about scramble races, but it's actually about scramble races and how they work with the death of a spaceman mechanic.
Okay.
Good question. I liked it when it came through. It says, how do you reconcile the introduction of scramble racing missions with death of a spaceman? It's a mechanic by its very nature which leverages disposable characters and equipment, and I think we're going to need to fix that that assumption right there. Is it a goal that's in direct opposition of other goals that you've established in Star Citizen, or are we actually in the process of killing off death of a spaceman?
No, certainly not. We're on our way towards Death of a Spaceman, obviously. Like, you look at the game now, it doesn't reflect where we want to be. Look at how many times, you respawn.
Right.
If you play for an hour, So, this is a tier 0 of a mission, but we'll have a non-lethal version, and will be a kind of leisure activity, like paintballing or something like that, so people can blow off some steam. It was only ever the start of this is our kind of stake in the ground for racing. We got out of it so much UI improvement and that, so you'll see the UI creeping into all the other missions as well, all based on what we had to have for a race mission. We just couldn't do the tracks right now. We can't sink that much time into tracks when the planets are changing as much as they are. For instance, what you were talking about, obviously, it isn't a death race, right?
Right.
It isn't a death race. It's a race where you can kill people, like you can shoot people.
Yeah. It seems like a death race right now because that's where the game is, not scramble races are. That's where the game is. Every silly little thing ends up killing you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, will the deaths that we currently have now being shot actually be a death in the final game? I'd imagine not. I'd imagine you go into an injured state. So, medics have a chance to come and revive you, kind of thing. And I see that the scramble races of that perfect ecosystem for many other, kind of careers. Being a TV reporter covering this thing, being a medic that's kind of hovering around, being a scavenger that's coming to pick up the remains, or a repairman that flies in, like a pit stop kind of thing. So I see them as that kind of ecosystem. They're aimed towards the future. It's a tier 0. We don't force you to play these. If you want to, you can right now, and it really doesn't cost you anything. In future, the reward will be much greater given the risk, and you'll have, when we're able to do the kind of EMP type firing weapons, the weapons that actually it's stuff that we can kind of do right now, but not in the way we'd really like to. I fire a gun at someone and it stops his engine for maybe 10 seconds, kind of that feel of a race. You can see how that non-lethal version will be a lot more entertaining, a lot more people will join in on.
Yeah, I think you touch on a struggle that we have with almost every aspect of Star Citizen, and that's there's looking at how any game system functions in the game as it is today, but then there's also extrapolating forward how that's intended to interact with other game systems in the future. I think that's a tough thing, not only for anybody playing the game to do, because it's not something we're generally used to doing. We're used to just playing complete, fully developed games and whatnot.
Exactly, and obviously we're used to designing for that as well. So we plan well off into the future where this is going to be, and then we go, okay, what can we do right now? What's entertaining right now? And as long as people kind of buy into the fact that you're going to die quite a lot in the current game, and it doesn't matter. We don't Death of a Spaceman really punishes you for that, but we don't right now.
Well, we punish people with insurance costs. Insurance fees. So there's some...
And when it comes to that, like we'll be able to rent specific vehicles out for much specific to this race at the location in future. So you'll be able to rent a cheap vehicle, and then you don't have to worry about losing your own. You can take your own and have a much better vehicle, but you risk losing it as well.
And so Scramble Races went in with 3-3. My understanding is that people find... I see a lot of people asking, I'm watching Twitch streams or whatever, how they even discover Scramble Races. Like, how do they find them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, sadly last week they vanished, and we had to fix that. Obviously, it's PTU, so bugs happen. But just keep your eye on the general tab of the mission, the contract manager. What you'll see is if there's nothing there, it means one's inactive. And then when one appears, you accept it. It scrolls between 3 different types. There's the space one, the 2 different ground ones, the Gravlev and the wheeled version. The ones on planets, there are 6 different locations, 2 on each moon for those. Sadly, you have to keep your eye on that tab. I do have a task in future being able to allow players to kind of flag the various tabs in the mission manager so that they get an update whenever something becomes available. So if you are interested in delivery missions, races, whatever, you can flag those, and then you'll see a little pop-up when something appears, so you get there quicker. So right now, it's a little bit like you've got to keep checking the contract manager, but it's where we are.
Tier 0, man.
Yeah.
All right, Luke. Thanks, man. I think that was great. That's everything I needed. Death of a Spaceman, still the intention of the game. Scramble Races, not intended to be full-on death races, just maybe dismemberment races. Scramble Races. We call them Scramble. And designed for the future and disabling. And I'm really excited about the ecosystem of other professions and occupations that it can feed into in that regard. So that's good to know. And then, of course, how players can find the Scramble Races. If all things go according to plan, 3-3 will be on the live environment available for everybody when this airs. So we'll be able to check that out by the time this airs. So thank you, Luke. I'll let you get back to work, man.
See you, man. Bye.
Well, that about does it for this week's show. Special thanks to Graham Phillipson and Luke Presley and Dan Truffin for taking their time to be here on the show with us this week. Remember, you can submit your questions for consideration each and every week up in the thread, up on Spectrum. And don't forget to vote. That's the 2-prong plan. I say it every single week, but it's just that important. I can't do this show without your involvement. So please get in there and vote up the questions you want to see answered most. And I'll do my best to track down developers each and every week that can answer your questions. So for Calling All Devs, I'm Content Manager for Global Video Production, Jared Huckabee. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertsspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.